So if you are a regular viewer of this show, you most likely know what a Volkswagen Golf R is. So I'm going to ask you to put aside everything you know about this vehicle and answer the following question. Over 300 horsepower, a trick all-wheel drive system, and a flash chassis control system. Are those elements interesting in a carrying case that does not have a fancy badge to non-car folk? Okay, so why do I pose a seemingly random question? Well, the answer is because of those non-car folks, those civilians who aren't interested in all the flash bits that make up a Golf R. You see, Volkswagen no longer sells a Golf that's not a GTI or a Golf R because those people aren't interested in a Golf anymore. They, of course, want baby buggies. But then the equation seems to change when you add all of this disparate technology. Let's start with the one that's the most obvious, and that's the engine. And here, it's actually not anything different than the GTI. It's the EA888. However, where it diverges is the evolution of the EA888. It's the Evolution 4, which changes the output. So it's still a 2-liter, 4-cylinder, direct-injected, turbocharged gas engine, but it's 315 horsepower, and then we get into the torque. You see, the good news here, we get a choice of a manual transmission, 6 forward gears, or the ubiquitous 7-speed dual clutch from Volkswagen. Now, if one opts for the automatic option, that's where we get to 295 pound-feet of torque. But if one opts for this car, which is the one we are driving today, the manual transmission, it is sadly saddled with 280 pound-feet of torque. Then there's that flash all-wheel drive system. We will talk more about that as we drive the car. And then there's the impact on fuel economy with that increased output. And there, it's actually not horrible. In the manual, it's 20, 28, 23. In the DSG, it's 23, 30, 26 combined. Then there are the performance figures. And here, I almost don't believe some of the figures, so I had to look at a couple of different sources. And depending on who you go to, the 0 to 60 on a Golf R, 3.9 seconds. And VMAX is electronically limited to 155 miles an hour. Actually, who am I kidding? I don't know if it's electronically limited. It could be just it runs out at 155 miles an hour. So I don't know if I would follow this under the heading of a surprise, but this, not exactly a heavy vehicle, 3,417 pounds, or, depending on express your weights and measures, 1,550 kilograms. Now, an important point we need to cover, if this had the 7-speed dual clutch, it would be 64 pounds heavier. With that, race mode. Oh yeah, that's a bit of a difference from a GTI. You notice it right from the get-go. After all, it's quite a bit more power. And here, I don't want to say it transforms the vehicle, it just makes it so much quicker. In reality, the way it delivers power is somewhat deceiving because it doesn't feel as fast as the numbers dictate, but after spending some time with this vehicle, you're like, wait a minute, this thing is really, really quick. Then there's the combination of the way it delivers power and the transmission. And really what's going on here is the usable power band at all points of the power band. Okay, so let's put the power delivery aside because really what this thing is about is the suspension and the all-wheel drive system. Let's do a recap of what's underneath the vehicle itself. And there in the front, it's McPherson struts, nothing too exciting. But in the back, it's a multi-link, and there they add an anti-roll bar. From there, it does show some of its GTI roots, like for example, it has that XDS cross differential, which effectively is a front limited slip differential, which makes a difference in the GTI. And here, it works in conjunction with something else, which is the all-wheel drive that has like a rear bias torque vectoring control. And here, you notice the difference. Take, for example, the mode we're in now, which is the race mode. This is all-wheel drive, as are all modes in this vehicle, but the reality is you don't feel like you're fighting the steering of the vehicle. You don't feel like the wheels are trying to go that way or it's trying to pull the vehicle forward. You feel that it's more balanced. Is it a huge difference from a GTI? Not exactly, but this one with the extra power and the combination of the limited slip in the front and the torque vectoring in the back, it just feels it feels more cohesive. It feels like it's carved from one piece of aluminum, and that's a combination of, yeah, the suspension that's set up, but also that anti-roll bar in the back, because I don't feel a lot of pitch from side to side. Now, working in conjunction with all that are the brakes, and there, I wouldn't go so far as to call them exotic, but somewhat of a surprise in a vehicle like this. It's got 14.1-inch diameter rotors in the front, but they are cross-drilled, something I didn't expect in a Golf R. And then in the back, it's 12.2-inch diameter rotors. Now, putting it all together, how does it all work? And there, I would argue, there's one piece that I would ask for to make this shine a bit more, and that would be the front suspension. So they went so far as to putting an anti-roll bar in the back, but in the front, you've only got those McPherson struts, which frankly don't do a good enough of a job of supporting the whole vehicle. You push it, there's a bit of plow there, and my guess is it's not the power or the traction, it's just there isn't enough suspension underneath the front of the vehicle. Now, granted, am I asking for very expensive double wishbones? No, but maybe do something a bit more to help the struts, like maybe helper springs or an anti-roll bar on the front to make the setup a bit more stiff in the front to match the back. Because really what you feel is it's disjointed from the front to the back. Is it a huge deal? No, but that's what I'm asking for. Now, throughout this episode, I've kind of sandbagged you a bit because we've driven the vehicle entirely in race mode. Now, yeah, that impacts the steering, the suspension, the engine dynamics, all that kind of stuff. But there is another mode in the Golf R, and for that, we hit the R button here, and it brings up all the modes here. And let's go into drift mode, and it says to me, hey, this is really for professionals. Are you professional? So I'm going to say activate, because yes, I am a professional. And now we're going to push it a bit more, and supposedly this is more rear biased. It makes the vehicle a more, I want to say a rear wheel drive vehicle, but it sends more torque to the back of the vehicle. Are you going to be confused that this, oh my God, it drives like a Miata with a lot of power? No, that's not at all the case. But the big thing you notice is the steering. You feel the lack of torque going to the front wheels. I like driving it in this mode a bit more for no other reason than you could have more fun on a road like this, because the steering, it feels more natural. That's the real benefit of the drift mode. Yes, it is indeed that time again to play your favorite game on the Options Game with today's contestant, one of our favorite Volkswagens. Hell, one of our favorite cars to drive, the Volkswagen Golf R. This is the 2022, the Mark 8. So this is a totally new Golf R and a totally new price. The base price in the US, $43,645. Now, I do feel it prudent to point out that is a car with a manual transmission. If it had the DSG, it would be an additional $800. Now let's talk about the color. That is called Lapaz or Lapis Blue. It is stunning. You must see it in person. But then we have to get to the bad news. There are only 3 colors on offer. This blue, deep black pearl, and pure white. Now, getting to some good news, they only come one way in the US, and the best spot of good news would be we finally have a sunroof in the US that is fitted as standard, in addition to adaptive cruise control, the Harman Kardon sound system, and the head-up display, which, remember, when we first drove the early Euromarket Golf GTI, that one had a head-up display. I didn't think it would make it to the US. It did in the Golf R. In this case, I'm very happy I was wrong. Okay, now that we know it's fitted as standard to all US-bound Mark 8 Golf Rs, let's focus on the bits we have to pay extra for. And there, we have nothing. Literally, everything is fitted as standard. There are no factory options. Actually, there's one thing we have to pay extra for, and that is the destination and handling. No, not for Mexico, rather von Wolfsburg, Deutschland for $995 for a total retail price of $44,640. So let's you and I put aside the bits that relate to puppy dogs and roses and focus on the things that just pissed me off. And if you saw our VW ID4 all-wheel drive episode, you know where I'm going with this UX system. It is still terrible, and it's more of a crime in this vehicle because this is a magnificent vehicle that requires a UX system that can support a vehicle that can be driven this fast. This is just too fussy and too complicated for its own good. It's slow, it's annoying. Please, oh please, oh please, change it. Hopefully I have not been unclear. And then there's the fit and finish of the vehicle. Overall, it's pretty good, but it's a bit of a mishmash, like the top of the dashboard, top of the doors, not befitting of a $45,000 vehicle. Now, granted, this is based on probably the equivalent of a $25,000 vehicle, but can we like cover it with like leather or like faux leather to make it fit with the whole mystique of the Golf R? And then speaking of the mystique of the Golf R, this is the halo vehicle of Volkswagen, isn't it? Am I wrong about that? Why only a black interior? I like the blue trim, it's nice, it picks up with the exterior, but it's such a beautiful color exterior. Can't we have something different, like a saddle leather interior? Or if you really want a Goomba choice, red. That would really stand out, and it would be befitting of the halo car of Volkswagen. If you could sort those things out, that would be greatly appreciated. Good luck. Okay, so let's head back to the question we posed at the top of the episode. Would the normal civilian car driving public, meaning non-car folks, be interested in this much power with this kind of technology contained in a basic wrapper? Now, I would say unequivocally, yes. But the sad state of affairs, none of them would give this a second look. Why? Because it's not a baby buggy. And that is a crying shame, because it's magnificent. It should find homes at more than car folks' homes. It is more competitive with vehicles that have this kind of technology that might have a trunk and have a badge to go with it. Now that brings us to the wish list. And yeah, we discussed the whole thing about the UX, the tactile feel, and the color and trim. But more importantly, if you want to reach non-car folk, you need some utility. Perhaps making this a station wagon, which exists in a different region of the world. It is called the Golf R Estate. So perhaps you bring that over, maybe charge 50 grand for it, and there you could reach non-car folk. But if you didn't know, car folks, they pay ridiculous amounts of money for go-fast station wagons, like to the tune of about 150 grand. So this, at a third that price, I'm thinking would fly out of dealers. Anyway, that's one man's opinion. So I'm going to turn this around to you guys to opine in the comments below, or via our social media, MotoManTV all one word, MotoManTV all one word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, rather than me beating you up about algorithms, which absolutely piss me off, I'm simply going to say we put a lot of work into these episodes and would greatly appreciate your help in getting the word out. You kind of know what to do. If you didn't, start with like and share these episodes with your friends on all your socials. Till I see you in the next episode, bis später.